paint over plus final. So here we're at the final stage of the shot, at least on our end. In production, this will be handed to a compositor, but since we're doing our personal projects, I decided to push the image and make it final. This is the stage where we're using our CG renders and blend it with the reference we gathered at the beginning of the workshop. I will be working in this fashion for the painting. From the far background to the foreground, basically. I will start with the sky and work my way forward by painting the Miller ground building and finally the foreground garbage bags and ground, etc. One thing you'll also notice is that I also rendered masks from the render, from the CG. I did realize that I needed them after the fact, so whenever I need a mask, I'll just go back to V-Ray and render it as needed. This mask is just a surface shader, nothing very complicated about it, but they do help me to isolate my elements of my painting. I started with the building, so when I only need to paint, for example, a building, I render a mask, and I only paint in that area. So this is very convenient, since you don't have to paint masks, all the masks by yourself. I just render and then done. I just have to select it. I really work in tandem with my render here. I'm getting pictures from my library as well, especially for the dirt or the broken walls, the leaks, and same for example, the windows. Or any elements that I would incorporate in my painting. I do extract them. I do extract what I need from the picture, and I would bring the values to match my CG render. Then I would color balance it to match the color grading of my renders, and I would erase whatever is overlapping. That's also when those masks that I rendered comes in handy. It makes the whole process faster. I basically can finish part of the painting in less steps because I prepared in advance. Be aware that I do quite a bit of experimenting during the painting, at the beginning especially. This is where I'm trying to find my pictures and I'm trying to blend them in and see what works and what doesn't work. So there's a bunch of tries out that didn't pan out. Did not end up in the painting, or did not end up in the painting and all, not even on the screen either, because it's a bit too much of trying and failing. There's a lot of that. I try to import an image and then it's just I just realized that after a few minutes I try to work with it and then it's just not working. Failing is really important at the beginning, so I can realize what actually works for my project. I wanted to talk about this because you need to make sure you get the right pictures for either your plate, if you work with the plate, or your CG renders. So during the process, if you notice, it is fairly similar to what we did, for the concept phase. We batch photos. It's just that now we have a very solid base to paint on. It's more supported by the CG render, and we don't hand paint much. No hand painting, unless it is a desired style. Unless it is established as doing so. But for film, no, you're not gonna hand paint most of the time. If you do, make sure that no one sees it. It is possible to hand paint, but you really have to make sure that no one sees that you handcrafted or hand painted that an area, unless it is dictated by the style. Now, this technique, even though I'm using it for production, you can also use it for concept. You can render a base with your texture, and then you can paint on it with photos. And of course, if it's concept, then you can hand paint on it. But if you just do the CG render with the texture and then you paint over with the photos, then that would be a strong concept art for film. Because those techniques that I was showing you, that workflow also applies to concept. You can actually show that as a proof of concept to a client or a director. I did it myself in the past, where I do render like this, and then I paint over on it. So, but it is not for production. It is for concept. I do not project it because it's not needed. But if you just keep it at the painting stage, then it just becomes a concept. To go back to the painting, I'm trying to make the render less CG. That's my mission here. Oftentimes in the environment, when they'll give you a CG renders, or when you do a CG render, it will look a bit CG. So that's when, either if you can paint, great, then you come in. If you don't, then it might paint your text over, and do paint over the CG renders. By painting over, this will make the renders less stiff, less dead. It will make it more believable. That's also why we're using photos to paint over, because you will not be able to make something look as real as a picture. Although for this particular project, really, I wanted a bit of a freedom. I wanted something realistic, but not photorealistic neither. I kind of wanted to have some kind of a artistic take on it, something a bit stylized, but it's still realistic. For the ground, I also use photos. Like I told you at the beginning, we're gonna cheat a lot here. That's one of the good things about doing environment is, oftentimes you can cheat a lot, and those cheats can be like quick ones. I also actually added more elements than I initially planned. At this location, I added also a cart, which was not here in 3D. But when you do that, make sure you get the right perspective. If you have the wrong perspective, people will point it out, especially if you have tools like Maya, where you can get it wrong because you'll have the right perspective with the 3D basically. I'm modifying the lighting as well when I feel the need to, as long as it does not make any discrepancies in the painting and with the CG. Between what you initially rendered and paint over, I'm saying that this because if you work for someone, they will approve your lighting, for example, and if you change it in painting, most likely, the client will not like it. That's because they already approved something in the past for the previous steps. So try to avoid doing that. I think it's kind of important. If it's your project, fine. You can paint over. It's going to be more work. So try to stick to what the client approved, or the supervisor, or the director. Unless the client asks for a change in the lighting, then you can either paint it if you have the time and the patience. If you do not, then you just re-render it in V-Ray, and you rework it from here. I'm also changing the colors of the buildings, as you can see. So basically, if it really looks too CG, then it's okay to completely paint over. It's fine. What really matters is how good you make it look. That's what really matters. Don't be afraid to paint one part of your painting completely over and just cover it with the whole painting. It's okay. It happens. Now I know also that there's one thing about paint over. I think there's a lot of doubts among students about painting over your your environments. I have just one thing to say about this. Don't be scared to paint over. It doesn't matter. Once you'll be working, they will ask you to paint over if you can do it. If you can't, someone else will do it. So you might as well just do it yourself. Plus, it's beneficial for you to paint over because you will really take your shot. It will be your shot. You will finish it. You finish it by the paint overs if needed. So that's I think it is beneficial for you to have that skills where you know how to blend either the plate or your own CG renders with the photos that you actually adding on it. It is cheating, but who cares at the end? If your picture looks really good, no one cares if you cheated or not. No one really cares about it, especially in production. No one will care how you finished it as long as you finished it and you made it work. Plus, you will be projecting all those painting on top of the CG. So in the end, it'll be an environment. So don't be afraid of it. Don't be scared of it. Learn it if you don't know. My colleagues at work, they do it. We all do it. We need to get the shot out. That's what you need to do. You know, make the work. Just make it work. So if you have, just spend a bit of time to learn how to actually do the actual matte painting. You're doing environments. You should know about it, even though if you don't think you will do this in your work, knowing about it will also help you, work with the matte painter once you hand it over for the paint overs. Well, the process now is fairly the same. You have the render. What you need to do is bring the photos in, make it look more believable, less dead, and you need to match the lighting from your pictures. You need to match the values, and you also need to match the colors. So all of that combined, you will finish your image. So all of that together will make that look, this final look where both of them are blended. And you try to make it invisible. Yeah, we don't know where you blended your elements. That's also very important. So for the garbage bags, these are really completely painting over. The thing is, here I could have done it in the look dev. I could have done it again. For example, at this stage, I could go back and then repaint a map or generate a noise on it and making it more dirty, rework the shader. But at this time I didn't have the patience to do so, and also not the time. So I just grabbed a picture about the same angle and the same lighting, or roughly about the same, that I have for my shot, and I just slapped it on it. I just slapped the picture on it. That way I don't have to redo it, and I don't have to wait for the render. I just painted on it, and it didn't take me that much time really. Just a few correction, and the garbage bag just blend with each other. Just a few values to change, a bit of color, and they look more convincing than just redoing it in CG. And they do look also more convincing right now than what they are if you look at the comparison between the photo and the picture. So if you make it look better, if you make it look good, no one will put the spot on you because you cheated. No one will put a spot on you because you put a photo on top of the render completely. It is better that you get to finish your shot faster that way. It is better. That's why I'm insisting on people who's wishing to be or become an environment artist, at least for film in my experience, is to know about the matte painting, not only about the CG. If you come more from the CG, now for the people that come more from the matte painting, also for them it's also beneficial to know more about how to render, how a bit more technical, like Nuke as well, how to project properly, how to make it work, how to properly model and creating assets. Not only you will know about how to do it, how to tackle on bigger shot and task. For example, you can just do a shot by yourself if you know how to do all this. You will be really able to call it your own. And also because, well, you'll know how to do it, and you will understand other people's job, their job, when it comes for them to do it. Even if you're not being asked to, you will understand it. You will know how to pass it over because you know how to do their job as well. That is also an important thing. So for that, the broken wall here, the one that I'm painting right now, next to the red door, this same thing here. I really didn't want to go back to CG and sculpt and texture and light again. So I just slapped a picture on it. Did a few changes. It didn't take me that much time really. It maybe took me 10 minutes to do this. So to get it out of the door, it'll be fast. Also this, I made those decisions on the go. And that's why I because of that skill that you can just paint on it, you can just make the decision, I'm just going to slap a photo, and then that's it. It's done. You can show it now. Oh, I did this. I finished it. And if you need to change it, well, you keep painting on it. So in the end, sometimes I do paint over completely. Sometimes I blend it together. It's more like a 50-50. 50% of it is the render, 50% of it is the other 50% of it is the painting. And sometimes it's just very slight details, such as a little bit of destructions, maybe here and there. Maybe on this part of the wall it's leaking, or also maybe on this part of the wall it's dirty and the CG is too clean. So that's my way of doing it. That's my way how I do the paint over the CG.